to my channel, Lenox Justifier of Innocence. I am Lenox.
And I am Leska. And Mr. Buddy here.
Yes, always Mr. Buddy. So today is the continuation of the Big Cat Raid. It is a 3-part series with many twists and turns. So just to recap, last week Amalia had received some calls from concerned citizens about a sanctuary that seemed to be involved in illegal activity. So she brought it to my attention. So here today is part 2 of the Big Cat Raid. The more Amalia uncovered about the phony Big Cat Sanctuary, the more we realized how big of an operation it is. The rescue facade serves as a cover for drug, illegal weapons, and people smuggling. With connections all over the world, they have moved product, people, and exotic animals seamlessly, going almost completely undetected. It was the content that they had posted on YouTube channel that viewers noticed abnormalities, and that raised concern. They reached out to the authorities, but nothing was done. They were dismissed as being conspiracy theorists. That's when they reached out to the sanctuary. They heard about the cases that we had assisted on and hoped that we would at least take a look at it. Amalia was able to locate where in Brazil these people are operating. So I asked her to look at their financials. An operation like this is rarely one-dimensional. I wanted to know exactly what we were dealing with, who the players are, and what else they are possibly involved with. Olgard will be here with the rest of the crew at 3, so we can discuss strategy and figure out transportation.
When the crew arrived, we discussed our strategy. Amalia showed us all the possible distribution points. They were definitely involved in a lot more than smuggling big cats. We decided it was best to use our sanctuary as a way in. We set up a meeting stating we wanted to look at teaming up in our efforts to save the animals. Josephine and Olgard will go imposing his potential new business partners. See if we can get more information on their real operation and whatever else they are involved in. We decided to split up and come in on different flights. Carlita and Nay, Vitrani and Bowie were going to investigate the possible child smuggling operation. It was noticed that they were showing kids playing with animals in their ads on live streams, but the messages were cryptic. It was too much of a coincidence that a lot of these kids were ending up missing after those videos aired.
Amalia was going to be staying behind to further investigate. She is following the money, tracking where it's coming from and to whom it's going to. The Triple Bros and Leska will be our backup. As Olga arrived, and I, in Brazil, we were met by a driver sent over by Jaru. He's the president of the Brazilian Exotic Cat Rescue. Olga and I looked at each other. There was no mention of a ride being arranged for us. We were hoping to go to the hotel first, but we shall improvise. They were obviously trying to be extra careful. Strange for a non-profit to have a butler-like drivers in fancy vehicles. During my last few trainings with Olgard, we had worked on my ability to use some of my powers without turning into Lenox. I was scanning the vehicle to see if I could find any hidden weapons, and there were a few. Not tranks like what we use, but military-grade weapons. I looked at Olgard, hoping that he could be reading my mind. I could feel the tension in the driver. He was uncomfortable with us being there. So I decided to distract him with a lot of silly touristy questions about the area, and it did put him more at ease. We chatted like schoolgirls the rest of the way there. I even had them laughing and asking questions about Florida.
We were out of the city driving through a heavily wooded area when we pulled up to a large gate. The windy gravel road led us to their facility. The place looked like an old fortress. The areas the animals were kept in were small and dirty. This immediately angered me, but I kept my composure. The men led us down a dark, creepy hallway with lights flickering. I glanced down at my cell. No signal. Thankfully, my earpiece worked on satellite. Amalia configured them so they worked in spite of being in a concrete fort, like building in the middle of a jungle. She was listening and would signal the rest of the crew if anything started going sideways. We entered a room where Jaru was sitting smoking a cigar like a pen. I didn't have a good feeling about this man. We sat down. I began to tell him about the sanctuary. He stated that he always had a love for exotic cats, so he created a sanctuary to help save them. Olga and I was feeling him out. I am pretty good at getting people to open up and give you their secrets. After about an hour of conversation, I suggested he enlarge the enclosures to allow the animals to live more naturally. He gave me a wicked smile. Said I agree, however, these things cost money.
Olgard excused himself so that I could get him to confide in me without his presence. I told him I knew of ways that we could raise more money. This intrigued him. When Olgard left, his sleaziness really started to ooze from his pores. Not only did he start to hit on me, but he got really close and said, "What do you propose?" This made me sick to my stomach and angry, but I played along. He was surprisingly easy to manipulate. I whispered in his ear about our creative alternative methods of getting more money. He replied, "I like how you think. I believe this is going to be the start of a beautiful business relationship." Olgard was planting listening devices everywhere he could on his way to the restroom. Carlita and Vetrani and Bully and the Triple Bros all arrived at the airport. The boys were going to sneak in tonight to scope out the layout of the place and figure out how to release the animals without being detected. Carlita and Vetrani and Bully conferenced in with Amalia. Amalia saying, "This is way worse than we originally thought. We're going to need the OIA and the FBI involved." I was able to trace where the money is going. There are some big players involved. The animal trade is just a small part of the operation. We are talking drugs, weapons, people, women, and children. The money trail reveals how deep this infection goes. I found connections to the Kirkin case. Nancy and Maxine's names have come up quite a bit. When Olgard came back, I told Jaru that we needed to go. We could pick up our conversation tomorrow after we get some rest.
Jaru apologized and offered for his driver to take us to our hotel. I didn't want him knowing exactly where we were staying, so I asked him to drop us off a la casa de carne asada. He smiled. "Josephine, you have excellent taste." Placing his arm around me, grabbing my shoulder, squeezing me while he whispered in my ear, "You're a very beautiful woman." I almost threw up in my own mouth, but instead smiled and thanked him. After they dropped us off, we ordered food to go. Olgard had been listening to Amalia on conference with the girls and filled me in while we waited for our food.
We have to get everyone back to the room so that we can eat and discuss clearly what our plan will be going forward. Amalia, have Leska get a hold of the DA from the Kirkins case. He'll be happy to hear from us. He has connections with the OIA and the FBI. Tell him that we stumbled across a situation and have him conference in tomorrow. Leska, I may have to send you back to California to assist him. The OIA and the FBI will not involve themselves without sufficient evidence. If this is as big as we think, we need to locate all the children, women, and animals first. We have to get them to safety as quietly as possible before we attempt to take this group down. We're going to have to spread out. Ogard, Mr. Buddy, and I, we can handle the release of the animals here on our own. This is gonna get ugly. So next week is gonna be the conclusion of this story. We're gonna be getting the FBI and the OIA involved to help us carry out this mission. So you want to stay tuned and see the conclusion and how we take down not only the big cat phony ring where they're selling these exotic cats all over the world, but it's going to uncover a lot of a deep ugliness of crime that has been going on. So it's going to put a big dent in Putintero's plan to destroy humanity. So stay tuned for next week when we take this whole group down and we make a big dent and have a huge win for good versus evil.